Super Smash Bros. Is an offshoot of traditional fighting games and has adopted more of their mechanics over the years than you may expect. But despite Ultimate finally introducing team lineups via Squad Strike, the series has still never really dove into assists, unless you count assist trophies, which are True assists, if you're unfamiliar, are when a character that you chose but aren't directly controlling temporarily drops into the match to deliver some kind of offensive or supportive action, in other words, to assist you, before vanishing off screen once again. This can be an entirely separate character from the playable roster, like the support Pokemon from Pokken or the Indie Army from the upcoming Framemakers, but in team-based games, or should we say squad-based games, the assist can also come from someone on your lineup who isn't currently fighting, and that's the design space I want to explore today. The format I have in my head essentially starts out just like Squad Strike, but each inactive teammate also has a meter that gets built up as your character takes and deals damage. Fill one up all the way, and you can call in their unique assist, many of which will also pull from their more team-oriented game appearances over the years. There's gonna be a whole lot of power of friendship in this video. As is tradition, assists can be very powerful, but oh no! Putting your teammate on the screen also presents a risk because they can be damaged while they're on the stage, and this damage carries over when they're switched into the playable slot. They can't be KO'd in this state, but they can be flinched and knocked back before their assist can conclude. So be careful not to call them in too recklessly, or they may do nothing for you. Now, some of these assists I'm going to propose are also clearly going to be stronger than others, and this could certainly be balanced by, say, making some characters' meters take longer to fill, but I'm not going to worry too much about hard numbers here. More than anything else, this video is a fun thought experiment, explores some cool areas of characters' canon, and is all about the vibes today. Let's get into it. A quick sponsorship today from Bix.co, the platform that lets you partner your social media up with brands to earn side income, actually a lot like you see on YouTube. Their platform is free, easy to use, and full of people and brands looking to connect. Check them out using the link in this video's description. Mario is going to provide a strong introduction to this teamwork concept by pulling his assist from the Mario and Luigi series, with your playable character taking on the role of Luigi. While these bros attacks, as they're called, are always entertaining, one thing to consider with assists is that they can't be overly elaborate, especially if you start introducing a bunch of bespoke animations that each of the 80+ player characters also need to be able to do with their wildly different body types. I am going to be playing a bit fast and loose with the rules, but where I can, I'm still going to try and make it feel like a coherent, realizable video game that we're cooking up here. The jump helmet, most recently seen in Mario and Luigi Brothership, does make for a very fitting adaptation though. Mario simply spawns in underneath you wearing the namesake headgear, your character automatically short hopping to accommodate him if needed, and after that, he flings you high into the sky, because what better role for Jumpman than helping you jump? This opens up a ton of new combo and kill confirm routes among the roster and potentially makes him extremely valuable to some characters, but hey, assists always make the power ceiling of a game much higher. Welcome to the new Smash. Like with every assist in this video, you can call Mario in whether you're in the air or on the ground, but in the air you will send Mario tumbling for a bit from footstooling off his head, exposing him to even more danger if your plan doesn't work out. In a similar natural team-up, DK's assist is the continuous roll that he can perform in Donkey Kong Country Returns. He once again spawns onto your feet, starts rolling forward with you treadmilling on top of him, probably running against the direction of the roll to avoid having to make a more faithful backpedal animation for everyone, and then he just keeps going. That doesn't mean you have to though, you get to jump off at any point, and if DK hits an opponent, they'll be popped up at a nice angle for combos and will also eventually be KO'd off the top. I was also strongly considering having him throw a barrel as a slow-moving projectile for you to run behind, and the deciding factor here was that I already did this for my Giving Every Smash Character New Moves video I did a little while back. I'm not making it a hard rule that I'll never revisit any of those, but if there is another strong option, I'll usually lean that way instead to make things more interesting for returning viewers. Link, on the other hand, uses the most obvious moveset addition on Earth and spawns in with the paraglider from his Hero of the Wild appearances, with a shield also planted on his feet, which he holds up in front of himself double foot kick style as he glides diagonally downwards. That shield presents an active hitbox the entire time he's out, and as usual, it protects him against all projectiles too. The first opponent he hits will be gently knocked up and back, as Link stylishly bounces off them before vanishing. As for Samus, her assist is going to be the classic Ice Missile, one of her longest running powers in the Metroid series that's kind of surprising not to see represented in Smash already, at least not officially. She fires off a quick missile, and if it makes contact, the opponent gets stuck in ice. Pretty straightforward. Think of it kind of in the ballpark of an assist version of Lucas's PK AFK freeze, although minus the insane travel arc that particular iceberg takes. Dark Samus, on the other hand, is our first opportunity to apply a bit of decloning to Smash, ironically, by using cloning. Dark Samus's assist has two of it spawn in, one directly to your left and the other to your right, and they both quickly dash out. At the end of their brief dash, or earlier if they collide with someone, they explode into a blast of blue phazon energy that sends opponents flying up and out and eventually kills. Think of it as kind of a down smash plus that also works in the air. Great for, say, checkmating opponents who try to air dodge to either side of you. Yoshi comes in with a mobility assist, spawning in right under your feet and providing one of his signature flutter jumps to lift you high into the air. It travels quite a good distance, and true to form, you can also hop off early, cruelly letting him plunge back to the ground in the process. I talked about not recycling from an earlier video, and another guideline I'm following is generally avoiding recycling source material that's already used in a character's base Smash moveset, which the flutter jump very much is. Yoshi's playstyle heavily depends on it. From a pure combat design perspective, I can actually think of many instances where recycling a character's existing move would make sense. But regardless, I think that makes for kind of a lame video, and personally, I also just like the idea of assists being able to represent aspects of a character's home series that wouldn't normally fit. This will be one of the few exceptions though, because Yoshi giving you a boost is something he's been so associated with for so long, and it's an incredibly natural inclusion. Kirby's always a friendly character, but in Star Allies, he has to be at his friendliest. Let's borrow from that and have him protect you, his greatest ally of all, with the Chumbrella. This is a huge anti-air attack that's completely invincible from above, popping in without insane kill power, but you know, enough to get the job done eventually. This will obviously work earlier in the air and can be a solid substitute for kill confirms if the playable character lacks a killing up air, for example, but Kirby will also float down for a moment, akin to what he does with a standard parasol, leaving him a bit more vulnerable than the grounded variant. At least he'll still be protected from above. Fox increases the scale a bit and calls in his R-Wing squad, who we hear but don't see as one of his teammates randomly confirms their approach over comms. Then 3 advancing laser blasts are fired diagonally downwards from off screen. They can make for some powerful edge guards if you time them well, and can also force your opponent to turtle up or retreat, giving you an easy approach which some characters might really appreciate. Pikachu's assist is the omnipresent Volt Switch, hopefully as valuable in competitive Smash as it is in competitive Pokemon. Almost instantaneously, Pikachu covers itself in electrical charge and rushes forward, acting almost as a quick multi-hit projectile. At the end, any opponent or opponents that he dragged along with him are sent flying, and regardless, you are rapidly teleported to his position as he vanishes. Luigi, fittingly, borrows from the Mario and Luigi series just like his brother, this time performing the Thunder Bros attack. In a very literal translation, he spawns in and footstools off your head before releasing a powerful burst of electricity downwards. Because you're the one being footstooled this time, follow-ups could be difficult here, especially if done in the air. But as compensation, the attack is also strong and quite big. And to pile on, landing a kill screen in the air with this would also look pretty funny. Very important for Luigi. No direct attacks for Ness, on the other hand, who instead performs a teleport on you. During the assist's brief startup, simply hold any direction to go where you want, in the same vein as Mewtwo's teleport or Palutena's warp. This is just a bit slower and shorter than those, but unlike with a conventional special move, it also won't put you into freefall, making it an excellent movement tool on defense or offense. Captain Falcon took some thought, because I think the Blue Falcon belongs in his final Smash, and I also really don't want him using that gun on his hip. Even if it fits canonically, it just doesn't really fit into how he's portrayed in Smash. What does fit, though, is Adrenaline Rush. Simply press the assist button and your character gets way faster for a few seconds, and also maintains momentum during jumps similar to the older games, letting you absolutely fly across the screen. It'd definitely be another balance headache to manage, no doubt there. Think of what a character as humble as Kirby can do when he gets hold of speed art, but that's for the imaginary devs to worry about. It'd be fun as hell, and hey, if it turned out to be broken, maybe Captain Falcon would be a popular character, which is not something you're gonna hear me complain about. Back in offense territory, Jigglypuff performs the fairy type move Play Rough. Similar to how it's portrayed in Pokemon, she angrily appears in front of you and advances with a flurry of punches and kicks, culminating in an uppercut that can both combo and kill. Do it in the air, and her natural floatiness carries her at a slight upwards angle while she's delivering the beatdown. Peach is going in a brand new direction for her and pulling out the Sword Fighter outfit, which she appears in to perform her basic combo from Princess Peach Showtime. I'd love to see a Peach rework in the next Smash game that utilizes some of these outfit transformations. There's a mountain of moveset potential in there, but as is, I'm not saving anything for the future in this video. The sword fighter outfit is the first one you get in that game, and its extra range makes for a fantastic combo extender. Daisy, in contrast, is going to get a command grab inspired by the Mario Party series. This is a pretty quick one, and if she lands it, she holds her opponent in place while a 10-option dice block spawns above her head and starts spinning. Press any attack button or just the assist button again, and she'll toss them up above the block, then punch it, dealing damage and knockback that scale with the number she ends up punching. Bowser is getting the single fireball from his very first appearance. This was one of my favorite custom moves in Smash 4, and I'd still love for him to have it in his main moveset, but he doesn't, so it's going here instead. In line with Bowser's immense strength, this is a giant, slow-moving projectile that eats through every other projectile, providing excellent pressure and counter-zoning. Just make sure it doesn't get reflected, because my god, that's gonna hurt. The Ice Climbers take some minor inspiration from their enemies and slide forward on a sheet of ice that unfurls in front of them, leaving slippery ground behind that takes a few seconds to melt and smacking their hammers into anyone who gets too close. This, naturally, doesn't work particularly well if they don't have ground under their feet, so if done in the air, they throw a pair of icicle projectiles below them instead. Sheik employs the harp from Ocarina of Time, which she really already should considering it's the only thing she does in that game. Fitting for the ninja archetype, her song of choice is the Nocturne of Shadow. It's another omnidirectional teleport that doesn't send you into freefall a la Ness, but is much slower to start up. As compensation though, Sheik is only vulnerable for a brief moment before a void of darkness expands around her, consuming both of you, and then a moment later, a spark will flash in the middle of the void, indicating that the teleport is complete. You're vulnerable as soon as this happens, but you won't be visible until you step out of the void, and it also lingers around for a couple of seconds to aid in your deception. Very sneaky, very Sheik-like, and only sort of ripping off Forsburn from the Rivals of Aether series. Zelda, meanwhile, sheds the past of her alter ego entirely and instead pulls from her most recent appearance, Echoes of Wisdom, although she still sends out a circular wave of energy, this time golden. This is a unique two-part assist. In part 1, the first opponent caught in the fast-moving energy field has their Echo acquired, which pops up in a bubble beside Zelda on the HUD. You'll then need to refill the assist meter, which is quick compared to other characters, and call her in again, and she'll summon an Echo in front of her, which delivers either a forward smash or forward air before they both vanish. Call in Ike's colossal sword swing with little risk, edgeguard Mario with his own forward aerial from max range. Matchups get a lot more interesting with her around. Even with the extra step, this is still a relatively shallow adaptation of Echoes of Wisdom's mechanics, but if you want a much deeper dive into how that entire game could translate to Smash, I've got you covered here. Dr. Mario calls a shower of pills and viruses down from off-screen, each of which acts as a low knockback projectile, and they quickly pile into a familiar-looking tower that terminates in a big combo complete with high-powered explosions. It's a good way to capitalize on juggling situations and controls the stage extremely well, setting up nasty ledge traps in particular. For a bit of variety and to maintain Dr. Mario's ongoing aesthetic, the colors can also change each time it's used, although for gameplay reasons the pattern they fall in is always the same. Where Pikachu got the very controlled, utility-heavy Volt Switch for an assist, Pichu instead gets Wild Charge. No movement gimmicks here, this is a blistering fast rush forward that drags opponents with it and launches them into the side blast zone very reliably, knocking back at a low angle that makes it great for setting up edge guards earlier on too. Keep in mind though that Pichu will hurt itself quite badly in the process, even more if it hits someone. Up to this point, I've been focused on using assists to help declone characters more, but in the case of Falco, I actually think it works to make him a bit more of a clone. He gets the same laser bombardment as Fox does, except these are fired slower and more methodically with a wider gap between them because, after all, Falco is the most reckless pilot on the team and he's not in the air right now. The Fire Emblem games are interesting. They've used a lot of different mechanics between entries over the years, including some diverse team systems, but the most recent one, Fire Emblem Engage, features every single Smash fighter being fought alongside as an emblem, spirits who come with their own unique powers and attacks. I like these, and I think pulling from them feels decently Smash-like, so I'll keep a running theme going for as many as I can. That means Marth's assist is going to be the Lodestar Rush, his engage attack, which in Fire Emblem is a flurry of slashes ending in an energy projectile, and that's translated pretty faithfully here. You can use it as a quick, extended melee attack, and even if that whiffs, it still functions as a delayed projectile, providing a nice, well-rounded approach that matches his Mario-esque utility in his home game. It's not the single most dangerous melee or ranged attack, but being able to handle everything is a nice trait. Lucina's Engage appearance, as well as her debut game Fire Emblem Awakening, are all about teamwork, and that's going to be represented in Smash too. If you activate her assist while you've got an opponent in hit stun, she'll instantly snap in front of them, the closest one in a group game, and bat them back towards you for an easy follow-up. That's going to be your recommended move, but you can of course call her in any other time too, in which case she'll follow behind you for a few seconds and jump into action if a combo opportunity does present itself. Young Link gets a very modular assist in Smash based on his very modular appearance in Majora's Mask. Call him in normally and he'll slam down in the Goron form with a fierce ground pound, then convert that momentum into a brief armored roll forward which soaks up any knockback attempts. Do it in the air and he'll instead don the Deku Mask and fly upwards with his multi-hit propeller leaves, kind of an on-demand version of Mega Man's up air. And then just as a bonus, Young Link is also the only assist that's different while you're swimming, in which case he'll spawn in front of you with the Zora Mask and do a damaging dash forward. Not something most players are going to see too often, but it's fun, and completing the trifecta just feels right. On the topic of which, Ganondorf, appropriately for the Triforce of Power holder, has the single strongest assist in the game. He'll hover in place high above the ground for a moment, then plunge down extremely fast and deliver his ground pound attack from Ocarina of Time. This creates a huge explosion that can KO the earliest of any assist in the game, and the dive is also a nasty spike that combos into it, but its slow startup and the fact that he's locked in place before he plummets down can make it tricky to line up outside of, say, ledge trapping situations. And look, I would love to pull a Captain Falcon here and make his assist broken so people will play Ganondorf more, but this just has to happen. God, power characters are hard to design in platform fighters. I did do that here though, just as a heads up. Yeah, they all have one at this point. Again, feels complete. Mewtwo performs Psycho Cut, which, true to its Pokemon appearance, is a series of 3 scythe-like projectiles. These come out with a bit of a delay between each one and in order of escalating power, finishing quite strong. That said, they're not really meant to combo into each other, so generally speaking, you're only going to be hit by one. This is a slight nod to the Pokemon move's high critical hit rate. Line it up better and you'll be rewarded with a stronger attack, because I've seen what happens when you try and literally replicate critical hits in Smash, and I don't think we need that again. Including on the Fire Emblem characters, because we have Roy also performing his engage attack, Blazing Lion. In Fire Emblem, this is a big, powerful slash that leaves flames in its wake, and it works the same here, setting the opponent ablaze for a bit of damage over time and lighting the ground up to do the same to anyone who steps on it. It's a big, dumb, fiery sword blow that takes up a lot of space, very fitting for Roy's portrayal in Engage and the Smash series, and definitely not inspired by anything else. In contrast, Chrome's big thing in Fire Emblem Engage is summoning Robin, which would make for kind of a funny feeling assist in a game that has Robin, so we're going to take a different approach here. Chrome's assist is Rally Spectrum, a buff which improves all your stats for a few seconds. You're faster, you're stronger, your shield is more resilient. They're not the most insane buffs compared to specialists, but they do add up, and it's one of the longer lasting buff assists as well. Mr. Game & Watch pulls from a ton of different games in his catalog to create a Smash moveset, but believe it or not, he's actually still got a lot more to go. I like giving him a nice, simple, rideable platform from Mario's Cement Factory. Good for recovery, disadvantage, juggling, you name it. I also like that it's kind of a twist on what Mario does. Meta Knight gets his iconic sword plunge from all throughout the Kirby series, a move that I just couldn't justify folding into his core moveset when I reworked him. Fan projects have tried and later abandoned, because the reality is that nobody likes stall and fall downers, come on. As an assist though, it's perfect. This is the fastest plunge we've looked at so far, launches a little star projectile to each side on landing, and actually impales opponents in place on the ground for a moment, in the vein of something like Corrin's Dragon Lunge. Kid Icarus Uprising is absolutely stuffed with cool gear, far too much for it to all have ever made it onto Pit's core Smash moveset. He gets a defensive assist here with the Midnight Palm, as he pulls you back with him before firing off a big, slow-moving projectile that eats through any other projectile in its path. In the air, this projectile is a bit faster and smaller, lining up well with the dual air-ground split in its home game. This also contrasts well against Dark Pit's more offensive assist, the Viridi Claws. He once again grabs you and does a dash, but this time forward with a double claw slash before going into a flurry of blows. The ending flurry has solid damage output and some kill power, and if you connect to the initial claw slash, it adds a lot more damage. Do it in the air, and the dash will have a downwards diagonal angle. Not quite as faithful to the original gear as Pit's, but still maintaining a clear air-ground divide. Zero Suit Samus performs a low, long-range sliding kick that pops opponents into the air for combos. This slide maneuver is something she can do in Metroid Other M, one of the Zero Suit's few playable appearances, and it was also made a hallmark of her Power Suit playstyle later on in the series. Do it in the air, and like with Dark Pit, it becomes a downwards move, but this time much more so, moving at a trajectory not much shallower than her existing down air. Wario dons his Bull Pot from the Wario Land series and becomes Bull Wario, recklessly charging forward head first with a nasty headbutt attack. This is deviating from its canon use a bit. Wario's no stranger to charging forward in any hat, but it's definitely fitting, and any amount of Wario Land rep is very welcome. Snake pulls out his sidearm and fires off a tranquilizer dart, with anyone who gets tagged by it briefly being put to sleep. I really am actively trying to avoid treading on FanMod's toes here, but listen, when it works, it works. And that includes working against airborne opponents, where it acts like a weaker version of Hero's Snooze. Back in Fire Emblem Engage territory, Ike received an interesting interpretation. His Engage attack has his partner brace for impact for a turn and then perform... Great Ether? Wait, but that was supposed to have been made up for Smash. Yeah, the two series just straight up have a symbiotic relationship at this point, and while I think that's fine and would like to play into it, Great Ether again is probably off the table. I like the spirit of the idea though, and for some added flair, he'll also bring in Irvan, his father's axe, just like he's introduced within Engage. Ike steps in front of you in a defensive position that can armor through attacks, and after pausing for a moment, he does a huge, powerful overhead swing that also launches out a weaker shockwave. It's a similar story in the air, but this time he'll plunge down before they hit instead, armored all the way. Pokemon Trainer can start a match off with one of 3 Pokemon, and because it's the player's choice which one that is, I think it makes sense to give an assist to all of them. Squirtle gets Aqua Tail, a watery tail first uppercut with extremely fast startup and low knockback, making it fantastic for combos. Ivysaur gets Poison Powder instead, as it points its bulb diagonally upwards and fires off a massive burst of anti-air purple spores. While it covers tons of space, the attack isn't initially outrageously powerful, but naturally inflicts a lot of damage over time to anyone who gets hit. And then Charizard gets Heat Wave, as it superheats the air around it and rapidly rides the thermals into the sky, with widespread wings ready to swipe anyone it passes. The initial blast of flame can catch opponents too, and it also creates a powerful upwards wind box for a couple seconds. Diddy Kong provides another mobility assist and another assist borrowed from Donkey Kong Country Returns, as he grabs onto your shoulders and gives you a couple seconds of lift with his rocket barrels. Less of the reckless charge from his existing up special and more of a controlled boost. Lucas, true to his defensive nature in Mother 3, performs PSI Shield. This coats you in a protective aura for a few seconds that can absorb exactly 1 hit, halving the damage you take and preventing any kind of knockback or flinch whatsoever. Sonic, meanwhile, provides the Psy Loop from his recent outing in Sonic Frontiers. No psychic powers involved here, by the way, totally different spelling. He runs in a mid-air loop in front of you at blinding speed, creating what's functionally a circular cage that opponents will be trapped in for a moment. And at the end, just like in his home game, it'll create a launcher out of energy that closes in on them. Vertical loop-de-loops are familiar to Sonic. Horizontal Psy-loops are familiar to Sonic. How's he doing a vertical Psy-loop here? Video games. King Dedede steps in behind you and emphatically points, as a Waddle Dee and then a Waddle Doo spawn in front and leap forward. They act as low-impact projectiles, and afterwards they'll linger on the stage for a couple seconds, the Waddle Dee pummeling you with stubby fists if you step in range, and the Waddle Doo using its signature beam attack. Yes, this is obviously inspired by his old Brawl side special, just cranked up a bit. And even though in the Kirby series he is sometimes willing to get his hands dirty, a lot of the time to this day if you see him fighting that means he's like possessed or something. Olimar likewise calls in some external help, this time the Glow Pikmin from Pikmin 4, which advance forward in the air as a unified whole. This entire advance is one big hit grab. If they get someone, the mass immediately separates into a group of individuals again, which latch onto the opponent, teleport them in front of you, and drop them off tumbling. Lucario performs Bone Rush, a stylish 3-hit sequence using a long bone made of energy. Well, he'll initially swing 3 times, and if any of them connect, he'll tack on 2 more before launching opponents away with moderate power, making it great for racking up damage and providing lingering coverage. Take a look at either Pokken or the show to get a stronger sense of its performance than the mainline Pokemon games can offer, or Smash can offer for that matter, because let's be clear, in Smash he should absolutely already be doing this. Rob's assist takes over the role of Dr. Hector, the actual protagonist of Gyromite, and chucks a slow-moving hunk of dynamite in a gentle arc that creates a not-so-gentle explosion on landing. Toon Link comes in behind you and wakes the wind, conducting a quick rendition of the wind's requiem as a huge gust flies forward from behind his back. This windbox painlessly launches anyone forward who gets caught in it, you included, which is not always a bad thing because you can use it for your own mobility purposes. But if you do want that gale to hit your opponent and only your opponent, you'd better jump out of the way fast before that song winds down. If you do time it well, there's potential for some incredible edgeguard cheese. In the same ballpark as Fox and Falco, Wolf also calls down a laser barrage, but this time they're slower, stronger, and there are only 2 of them. Wolf and bombardments should have their own feel compared to the R-Wing ones, and while Team Star Wolf's lineup isn't the most consistent thing in the universe, it is generally smaller than Star Fox. Villager has an interesting twist, a unique passive ability while he's in your assist roster. While he's there, every time you hit an opponent, they'll drop a sack of bells that you can pick up just by walking over them. Call Villager in to help, and he'll throw a string of turnips rapid fire in an upwards arc, and the exact amount of turnips he throws will depend on how many bells you picked up, with a bit of randomness applied as well for some character. Hit the jackpot, and he'll get your back with up to 10 quickly thrown projectiles before his supply is exhausted. They're not especially powerful projectiles, but you can't argue with those numbers. Mega Man is another very modular character thanks to the huge arsenals he can wield in his home games. Call him in on the ground, and you'll get the Hornet Chaser from Mega Man 9, a slow-moving homing projectile that can be a massive pain to get around. In the air, it'll be the Scramble Thunder from Mega Man 11 instead, a downward surge of electricity that splits in half when it contacts a surface and paralyzes opponents caught in any part of its path. Wii Fit Trainer pulls out a golf club and takes a hard drive at a ball in front of her. That ball works as a mean little projectile, albeit one that's better suited to anti-air duties, and if you manage to hit someone with the club as well, suddenly it starts getting pretty deadly. Rosalina stays out of the action entirely while Luma handles the assist burden, popping up in front of you and staying by your side for the next several seconds, with it performing all of its usual attacks whenever you do a normal or an aerial. It ignores all special inputs, which means you can't detether or reposition it like Rosalina can, but it's still an enormous blessing to have Luma looking after you. Make sure you look after it too though. While shielding Rosalina from damage is obviously great, Luma is still vulnerable, and if it's fully knocked out before the assist ends, Rosalina actually starts her playable stock off without one, and anyone who's played her even briefly knows just how painful that wait for a respawn can be. Little Mac leaps in front of you and performs a good ol' 1-2. If he successfully sends an opponent flying, Doc Lewis will come in to assist the assist, delivering a haymaker of his own and sending them barreling right back towards you, ready to follow up. Greninja embraces his ninja side and uses Smokescreen. This is a huge puff of smoke triggered by a small explosion that hurts a little, but the real prize is the smoke itself. It takes a couple of seconds to clear, and during that time, you, but not your opponents, will be completely obscured unless you attack. Are you shielding? Are you jumping? Dashing in? Dashing away? Who can say? And yes, this one is just straight up forest burn, okay? I don't know what to tell you. It's a good idea for ninjas. I can't help it if they got there first. If it makes you feel better, say I'm ripping off Piranha Plant instead. As for the Miis, I know we're 2 generations removed at this point, but they did originate on and are still heavily associated with the Wii, so I think it would be fun to lean into that. Wii Sports Boxing definitely has some overlap with Little Mac's style, but for Mii Brawler, what else could it be? The execution is a lot different here though, with Brawler delivering a flurry of body blows ending in a powerful uppercut that has solid KO power. Similarly, Mii Sword Fighter is going to pull from Wii Sports Resort. A random item from Swordplay's Speed Slice falls out of the sky very quickly, acting as a projectile that spikes throughout its entire trajectory. If it either hits the ground or falls for too long, Sword Fighter instantaneously dashes to it and delivers a single, powerful overhead slash with both hands, cleanly splitting it in 2. And then while there are a few good Wii Sports candidates for Mii Gunner's Assist, she's instead going to deploy a tank from the Wii Play Collection. This will stay on stage for several seconds, controlling itself as it travels around and fires off a slow-moving projectile periodically, which comes out pointed directly at the nearest opponent. True to its origins, these bullets will bounce off any surface they contact and can also be swatted away. If you've ever played against King Dedede, then you know the drill. Palutena helps you out with Jump Glide from Kid Icarus Uprising, a blessing that launches you a respectable distance into the air and then greatly slows your fall speed for a few seconds. Although you can do any other action, including fast falling, to cancel this part whenever you want. A similar interpretation for the power was used as a custom move in Smash 4, but those didn't stick around, and it does seem like a very benevolent goddess-y thing to do for an assist. Pac-Man, meanwhile, delivers a butt bounce like he does in the Pac-Man World games. He'll come in from above, slam into the ground, or preferably your opponent, and then bounce forward in a dramatic somersault. He's also an active hitbox the entire time, with the initial bounce gently spiking opponents and the follow-up gently bumping them, either of which can set up combos. In the same vein as Chrom, Robin is stepping away from the Fire Emblem Engage theming and instead performing Bolganone, a high-level fire spell. This is a delayed fireball that descends from the ceiling of the stage, traveling in a slightly diagonal path which takes it a few character lengths ahead of where you were when Robin was originally called. It's huge and hits very hard, and while its speed and positioning do put it on the more situational side of assists, it does create some pretty insane pressure in those situations. No surprise that Shulk comes to help out with another Monado art, Monado Cyclone in this case, which is again huge. This one's not incredibly strong, but seriously, it catches everything, and it also offers follow-up potential. Any opponents caught in it are spun around helplessly for a moment, a nod to its toppling power in Xenoblade Chronicles, before being flung away. As for Bowser Jr., he's taking on a role that both him and the Koopalings can handle quite comfortably, hopping out of the clown cart and instead charging forward under his shell. None of them are strangers to this, and in Smash, it's a good grounded projectile that drags opponents along for a bit before automatically launching them out with moderate knockback. Faster characters in particular will be able to follow along behind for confirm opportunities, and the shell also protects him from all damage while he's spinning, but he can still be hit with things like disjoints and projectiles to slightly push him back, and his belly will still be vulnerable if it's exposed. And yep, he will take the extra damage from hitting his body instead of the cart. And if you didn't know, yes, that is a thing. Duck Hunt takes advantage of the NES Zapper and simply fires a single shot off a fixed distance in front of you, calling in the marksman rather than the duck or the dog, a rare assist which doesn't expose its user to any kind of danger. It pays for this by not being the most impactful assist in the world either, neither killing nor setting up combos very well, but its meter also fills up very fast, turning anyone into a bit of a zoner and offering a lot of new setups for, say, certain item characters. It would be great to see Ryu take on some more modern Street Fighter elements for his main Smash moveset, so nodding to it with an assist is the least we can do. Keeping in line with his more defensive nature in Ultimate, Ryu's assist throws out an electrified Hadouken which paralyzes opponents. It's not the single most unique one in the game, but it's a nice blend of keeping him updated and also nodding to his Marvel vs. Capcom appearances. And Ken, on the other hand, leans into his more aggro side and charges forward using Street Fighter VI's Drive Rush, delivering a powerful mid-punch that automatically links into a flaming Tatsumaki kick if it connects. It's got good range, excellent damage output, and some solid kill power behind it. But it also puts Ken front and center and has quite a bit of lag if it whiffs or hits a shield, making it risky to go for in the neutral. As a combo finisher though, for example, go nuts. Cloud takes a page out of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and performs Infinity's End. Slightly simplified for Smash, this is a low sweep that perfectly pops opponents up for a nasty spiking finisher that's untechable on the ground. Try using it off stage too. No ground to save them there. Returning to our Fire Emblem Engage concept, Corrin's Engage attack is... oh. Well, now that's not gonna work super great, is it? She'll turn to her Dragon Vein ability instead. On the ground, this sends up big surges of water to either side of her, and in the air, these will be waterfalls instead. Either way, opponents will be sent flying, and it also leaves a puddle on the ground for a few seconds that hinders movement. Bayonetta has a lot of absolutely insane options to pull from. That's kind of her home series whole thing. Also her thing though, as well as her identity in Smash, is being a combo machine, so I actually feel like showing a bit of restraint and playing into that. Well, not too much restraint. She's still gonna do a big self-contained combo of her own that ends with a kick into the sky for further follow-ups. Can't have Bayonetta being conservative out here, but you know, it's no screen-filling demon. Save that one for the final Smash. Now moving on into the Ultimate Originals, Inkling applies pressure with the Tri-Stringer. She spawns in behind you, charges it for a moment, and then fires a trio of projectiles forward in a fast-moving arc. If they stick to anything, including an opponent, there'll be a short delay, and then they'll detonate in a burst of ink that knocks opponents up with minor knockback growth. On top of the pressure and combo opportunities it provides, it also inks opponents. And if they're hit by more than one explosion, they'll be fully inked and subject to that juicy damage multiplier. Ridley comes through and winds up a brutal claw swipe with amazing kill power. It takes direct inspiration from his fight in Metroid Other M, but simple, vicious, lethal attacks are right in his wheelhouse all across the board. Oh, and by the way, if you're looking for the tail pogo, other video. Employing one of the Castlevania sub-weapons which didn't make the cut for Simon's core smash kit, he tosses a knife from behind you, which takes an unusually slow, straight path forward and pops opponents up on hit. Pretty by the book. It's a similar story with Richter, except he uses a rebound stone instead, which he launches downwards at a 30-degree angle on the ground and 60 in the air. As the name suggests, it also rebounds off any surface it hits before it expires. As for King K. Rool, he plays into that heavy zoner style and summons a series of 5 cascading cannonballs, just like in his Donkey Kong Country appearance. That is some genuinely incredible coverage, and they hit pretty hard too, but he's also stuck on stage the entire time it's happening with no belly armor to keep him safe, so use it wisely. Isabelle is going to get another retread assist and share the bell collecting, turnip tossing concept with Villager, both because it's very distinct from all the other assists in the game and also, I mean, come on, it's turnips in Animal Crossing. Hers don't have any random element tagged onto them though, in line with how her existing turnip moves already work in Smash. Hey, has anyone ever checked Isabelle out for insider trading? Incineroar, on the other hand, is much more brazen about his dirty schemes and uses Nasty Plot for an assist. In Pokemon, this simply buffs the user's special attack, but here it's being co-opted into a role more fitting for a dark-type wrestling heel in a fighting game. Incineroar spawns in not behind you, but behind the nearest opponent, poses mockingly for a moment, and then hurls itself forward with a diving tackle. While it does give your opponent a brief moment to get out of the way, they have to reposition carefully because the dive covers a ton of horizontal space, which also makes it excellent at hitting any assists on the stage who don't have the luxury of moving. And just to really rub it in their face, it deals 1.5 times damage to assists. Now that's a nasty plot. Stepping back into more wholesome territory, Piranha Plant's gonna do something fun and allude to its memorable singing segment from Super Mario Bros. Wonder. It skips along quite a good distance, singing a little tune the entire time, and anyone caught in its way gets continuously knocked back along with it. A little out there, sure, but are you really gonna argue with making the world just a bit more whimsical? Joker unleashes a flurry of blows reminiscent of his attack strings from Persona 5 Strikers. It ends with Arsene flying forward, dragging anyone caught in its path with him and throwing them away. Not the absolute most lethal assist in the game, but it will kill and comes out quick and covers a lot of space. In the spirit of Hero's absolute clown fiesta of a Smash portrayal, he gets a powerful but entirely random set of assists that he might use. It could be More Heal, which restores a massive chunk of the player character's health, maybe say 35% as a starting point before playtesting. It could be Ka-Snooze, an area of effect attack that briefly puts opponents to sleep. It could be Ka-Sizz, a large explosion that puts flames on the ground. Or, if a teammate has already been knocked out, it could be Kazing, which puts them back on your lineup with, say, 100% damage taken. These are all frankly kind of cheap and stupid, but hey, welcome to Hero and Smash, and we're leaning in, we're not cowards here. There is, of course, the inherent unreliability of the randomness, which really is a big deal, and even despite that, I'd imagine that Hero's assist meter would probably be one of the more demanding ones to fill up. Banjo and Kazooie are also a bit unusual and have a unique Pokemon trainer or Pyra/Mythra-esque choice to make on the character select screen. Unlike with those characters, this one doesn't change anything about their core moveset, but it does change which of their individual assists you get to call in. Banjo uses the Pack Whack, a well-known move from Banjo-Tooie that he can only employ when Kazooie isn't weighing his backpack down. It does good work in Smash too, both comboing at early percents and killing at high ones. Kazooie, on the other hand, uses the Spring Glide, a combination of her leg spring and glide techniques. This is an anti-air burst upwards that transitions into a beak-first diving glide, covering dramatically more space than Banjo at the cost of power. Terry comes from the King of Fighters, which, while it is a team-based fighting game, isn't really known for having assists like many of its peers. Except when it does. Terry's assist is going to be Dunk Geyser, his striker attack from games like KOF 2000, where he cuts in front of you with an uppercut to lift opponents into the air, then slams them back down and sends them flying with a high-angled geyser when he lands. If done in the air, it totally skips the rising portion and cuts straight to a downwards dive. Either way, it'll have both combo and kill potential, and no, it won't be as strong as the existing Power Geyser. We arrive at our final Fire Emblem character with Byleth, and like so many of their assists, this one pulls from Fire Emblem Engage. The Goddess Dance in its home appearance gives your allies another turn, and that spirit's carried over into Smash as it restores all your resources. You get your double jump or jumps back, your air dodge, your up special, you come out of free fall, go ahead, take another turn. It's another balance headache assist for sure, but man could it be a cool one. Min Min's default arms all see use in her core Smash moveset, so for an assist, she'll think outside the box a bit and utilize the clapback arm for a long-range punch with some kill power. While weaker than the Dragon and certainly Megawatt arms, it's still great for things like extending combos and finishing off edge guards, but as in its home series, it's also a powerful reflector the entire time it's active, and also shoves opponents backwards quite a ways even if they shield it, making it safe at all ranges. There's so much to pull from with a Minecraft character that it was honestly hard to even figure out where to begin. The bow is one of his more iconic items that also matches the combat theme though, so he loses a simple arrow from behind you with moderate speed, damage, and relatively low knockback. He could use status potions, he could build something ridiculous, but given the complexity he'll introduce the second he actually swaps in, I don't think there's anything wrong with keeping his assist relatively straightforward. Sephiroth takes a cue from the same game as his nemesis and adds a twist to a classic, plunging down hard sword point first and then erupting into an explosion of dark energy a moment later. The sword isn't all that powerful but comes out fast, the explosion is quite powerful but comes out slow, and together they control the stage very well. As with Pokemon Trainer, Pyra and Mythra each get their own dedicated assist. Their specials in Xenoblade are already appropriately co-opted for their special moves in Smash, so let's take some inspiration from their battle skills instead. Pyra's assist is Resplendence, a large overhead sword slash that deals extra damage and knockback if it's used against an opponent who's stuck in hit stun, in line with the skill's in-game property of increasing blade combo damage. And then, to maintain a parallel between them, the same applies to Mythra's Lightspeed Flurry, a weaker but significantly faster multi-hit burst of slashes. As with Steve, there was a lot of wilder stuff to potentially pull from here. Pyra dipping into cooking by throwing food, say, plays into the teamwork angle. Mythra could utilize her Torna skills, but yeah, for characters that get multiples, I try and avoid anything too insane for the most part. Speaking of having a lot of things to pull from though, Tekken has never exactly been criticized for having shallow move pools. Kazuya's gonna pull out the Slaughter Hook, metal as hell by the way, which A, isn't part of his core Smash moveset, and B, is a bound move, a system that was used in a couple of Tekken entries, but most notably, Tekken Tag Tournament 2. Just like in that game, it quickly slams opponents into the ground and perfectly bounces them back up for his teammate, your active character this time rather than tagging someone in. Or you could use it for an offstage spike too. This one has set knockback to guarantee a perfect rebound off the floor every time, but it could work. And then, at long last, we have Sora, who winds things down with an assist inspired by his goofy team attack in Kingdom Hearts 3. He lifts you into the air, spins you around, and throws you forward surrounded in light, acting like a missile until you either crash into something or someone, or perform any action to cancel out of it. Like I said in the beginning, it's very power of friendship, which is right up Sora's alley, so is air movement, and that horizontal assistance is also a nice little bookend on Mario's vertical one. Thanks for watching, everyone. This was a big topic, but fun to put together. What did you think of the choices? Likes and comments go a long way towards helping a video grow on YouTube, so if you thought this deserved it, much appreciated. You can take a look at another MockRock video here, check out my second channel, MockRock Talk, below, and patrons, members, and subs get perks like early videos and Discord access. Later, people.